Hey, this is Kim. I'm here at Mind Over Matter Meditation Center in Holliston, Mass. And this is our weekend forecast. It's Sunday, April 10th, and we are in the second quarter moon phase in Leo. So again, the moon moves every 2.5 days or so. So last night at midnight, actually, we moved out of the first quarter moon in, let's see, so Cancer, and then moving into the moon in Leo, which it will stay here for about 2.5 days before moving into Virgo, etc., etc. So the Leo moon is a very energetic moon phase. Leo is a lot of, you think of the duality of the cat, right? So the duality of the big cat versus the little house cat. So you're, sweet, loving, domestic cat versus you are really Leo energy of the lion, that very outward expression, that very confident expression of self really comes through with Leo. And so it really is a lot of that solar plexus, that third chakra, the yellow, the third chakra energy is how are we coming out into the world? Are we able to tap into the air, the fourth chakra, the heart, and come out into the world in a loving way? Or are we really congested in the fire of the third chakra and feeling that sort of rageful energy? And so this past week was really about that duality of rage versus love. And so when the second quarter moon phase is about the seeds that we've planted during the new moon, so the intentions for this lunar cycle, what do we want to accomplish, what projects do we have going on, what are we trying to materialize or actualize? So these are the action steps. And so Leo really is an action oriented energy. It's about that fire. We stoke that fire, we breathe in to life the things that we want to bring forward, but are we doing it in a loving way? And so one of the ways to really check in when it comes to the relationships around us is, are we able to see other people or other situations through the eyes of love or through the eyes of source? So before we get there, and just to sort of circle back to this concept of twos, because twos have been coming up a lot, and they actually came up in today's reading for this report a few times too, which is sort of fun to look at and interesting. I know I say everything is interesting, but to me, there's lots of interesting stuff, so I find all this stuff interesting. So during the last report, we were talking about the animals, and we were talking about bear and how bear energy had very much come in and was very present, and had been really even from the week before when I had read bear, even into last week's report. It was still very, very present. So there's a few reports that I follow, listen to. And what's funny is after I had done the last recording, one of those reports came out, and one of the things that she was talking about was bear energy as well, and how bear is related to Russia and all the things sort of going on in the eastern part of the world, at least eastern to us, and that poking the bear energy. And so I thought that was kind of interesting and validating. So one of the things that we didn't talk as much about last time with bear is this connection to the number 2. So it's on average, bears have 2 cubs per litter for their season of cub bearing. And so 2 can denote a 2-year cycle. And so for us, here in the United States, I think that's sort of interesting, because 2 years from now is when we'll have another presidential election. And so this push-pull that we're feeling in our society, in our communities, globally, if I, dare say that these things that we're feeling here are really things that are being echoed around the world, have this sort of, can we feel the love, or is it overshadowed by rage? What's going on? Which energy is more prevalent in your energy field, in your life, in your awareness? Are you looking at situations through the anger that's coming from the third chakra, or can you move, so third chakra here, that yellow fiery energy, or can you breathe into the heart center, the fourth, that green energy of the heart, and see things through the eyes of love, which is also seeing things through the eyes of source? Because that creative energy, that source energy that creates everything, only sees through the eyes of love. And so I was looking at the cards for this reading, and of course, I go to the Moonology deck by Yasmin Bolin. And when I went to pull the cards to tune into the energy of this moon cycle, two cards came out. So going back to that two association with bear. And so the first card that came was a full moon in Libra. So even though we're not in a full moon period, the message and the energy is a win-win outcome is forecast, which is nice. So Libra is about balancing energy. And so Libra really is about letting go. This full moon in Libra, some of the notes to it is about letting go that of which is falling away anyway. So if you find that things are falling away in your life and you're unable to just allow that to happen, it can create resistance and discord, and that rage and anger can come in when things feel like they're moving away from us and maybe we don't want them to. It's also about seeing the other person through the eyes of love or source energy. So in a situation where maybe it's a relationship that has come full circle, and so, people come into our lives for a reason and sometimes only for a season. It's not necessarily something or somebody or a situation that's meant to be with us from beginning to end. Everything that happens to us is meant to help us along the way. So sometimes when those things are coming to a natural end, and that feeling of loss can trigger anger, resentment, frustration, and it can be really difficult to see the other person in the situation through the eyes of love. But when you can release the person, the situation, it allows the whole thing to move on from a loving perspective instead of having that sort of grudge or negative energy attached to it, which is funny because the other card that came out at the same time is full moon in Scorpio, which is about releasing negativity. And so obviously these two cards came out to work together to let us know that there's a balance. So the Libra energy is about love and balance. And can you bring harmony and love into a situation to create that win-win? So one of the notes that I was writing down regarding the card is balancing one's own desires with those of the people around you. Excuse me. Libra brings love energy, so negotiations can be easier. And maybe during that ending, there is negotiations that need to happen in order for people to move in their own directions. And so can you let go of whatever attachments you have to the situation to the benefit of not only you, but to the situation, the other person, sort of like paying it forward a little bit. So the full moon in Scorpio. So Scorpio, a little singer on the end of that tail. And so Scorpio can, the ending may have a little bit of a sting. And so there may be, tripping that rage, tripping that poking the bear feeling. The endings may come about in a nasty or vindictive way. And so watching for that. And so the two themes I really felt in this week were rage versus love, and where are we functioning from, and then honesty and transparency versus autonomy. And so in order to be honest, you need to be feeling all your feels. And so if the way that you have been feeling is, let's see, intense, weird actions, grudges, paranoia, pointless worry, all of those things, just release it. Just let it go. None of that is benefiting you. It's most likely not benefiting whatever situations that you're projecting any of those things into. And so both the full moon in Libra and the full moon in Scorpio are about releasing. And so full moon in Scorpio indicates that, like I said, that releasing may come with some bitterness. It may come with some vindictive energy. It might sting. And so full moon in Libra is asking, where can we interject love into those situations to create a win-win so it doesn't have to be a nasty split? So if you find yourself in a situation, whether it's a work relationship, a love relationship, any sort of relationship situation that's going on, and you're experiencing these feelings, these situations, see if you can be honest with yourself. Now, honest and transparency versus autonomy. And so this has been something that's really been bothering me for a while. So years back, maybe some of you remember that we had this sort of zero tolerance policies came up, and transparency. And I think that that was born out of the fact that there was so much shadow and secrecy for so long, and people didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes, that there was this sort of demand for people wanting to know the truth and people wanting to know what was going on behind closed doors, sort of like, the wizard behind the curtain, who's really leading Oz. And the slippery slope with that is autonomy has fallen by the wayside, especially over the last few years, where people, it's interesting, it's an interesting place to be, where people feel isolated and detached and separated and segregated from portions of society, but also to feel like you have no autonomy. So even though you're separated, you're not hidden. And being honest with oneself, you can be honest with yourself and how you're feeling and still maintain a level of autonomy around those feelings. Being honest does not mean giving up your autonomy. Being honest doesn't mean having to explain yourself away to somebody or to a situation in such a way that disempowers or leaves you feeling vulnerable or takes away from that sense of autonomy. You have the right to your own feelings. You have the right to your own thoughts. You have the right to your own processes. And you don't need to justify that to anybody. If you're co-creating something with people and you're not showing up or creating that win-win, then you owe the situation honesty within yourself, in the sense of, why aren't you showing up? What is it that's holding you back? Is it somebody else in the situation? Is it a feeling within yourself that maybe you're not feeling like you're good enough for whatever project or task that's asking you to come forward? But being honest really requires some self-dialogue, and you don't need to share that process with whoever may be in the situation. You can autonomously have that process of discernment within yourself to then be able to show up more authentically in the situation. So going back to seeing yourself, so when we see other people through the eyes of love, we also can see ourselves through the eyes of love. We're really just reflecting, a little shaky there. We're really just reflecting back and forth to each other sort of what's going on. And so if you're recognizing in a situation that somebody is having a hard time with self-love, then seeing them through the eyes of love can help people sometimes see themselves that way when they were unable to before. So anyway, sort of going back to the rage versus love and the honesty, transparency versus autonomy, and the whole two thing. So in pulling the Animal Wise Tarot cards, the same thing happened. Two cards popped out together. And so the first card that came out was, let's see, so it's 10 of Shapeshifters, which is water or cups. So the suit of cups in the animals is considered shapeshifters. And so grasshopper is about leaps of happiness. So grasshopper is associated with good luck, good cheer, and rebirth. So right in line with everything we've been talking about for the past few weeks about the whole rebirth process. And so it's about trusting. So we're being asked to let go, to release, to let go of the negativity, to let go of the paranoia, to let go of the weird feelings, to let go of grudges, pointless worry, all of those things. We're just being asked to really check it, leave it at the door. It's not anything you need to take with you forward. Grasshopper. So the funny thing about grasshoppers is grasshoppers only move up and forward. Grasshoppers do not move backwards. And so in the sense of what we need to release and let go with these full moon cards is about forward movement and trust. And so grasshopper is about moving forward in leaps and bounds. Grasshoppers can actually jump 20 to 30 times their body length, which is incredible. So grasshopper really does denote not only forward movement, but really strides, making huge strides, leaps and bounds, and trusting that what you're moving into is going to work. It's going to have substance. It's going to come to fruition. There's going to be good manifestations coming out of that. And so the second card that came with our grasshopper was otter. And so it's interesting because otter is the 3 of pentacles, and so it's earth. So grasshopper is associated with water. Otters are associated with earth. However, they're also associated with water. So when creativity and skill. So it's about having fun. So just like last time, Coyote came in with bear, and Coyote is about folly and working together, but having fun. Otter also came along to remind us of being creative and developing new skills, but having a good time while we're doing it. So when otters have their babies and they average 2 to 4, so again, that 2 comes up again, they average 2 to 4 babies, and they're basically born needing to learn to swim right away for survival. And so it's about accumulating a skill or acquiring a skill and learning it incredibly quickly. So grasshopper is about moving us forward and getting us into a new place. It's also otter's energy of trusting that when you get there, you're going to be able to learn very, very quickly that and what you need to really thrive, not just survive, not just get by, but really, really thrive in this new environment and be able to use what you're learning in a creative new way. And so I just want to see some of the others. So maneuvering, 2 to 4, find ourselves on maneuvering, right? So maneuvering, so whatever waters that we find ourselves in, wherever, when you take that leap with grasshopper, when you feel lined up and you feel centered and you get inspired to take action, it's about waiting. So grasshopper moves when it needs to move. And so when you're releasing in all of this full moon energy in the cards, so when you're releasing all of those negative things that are holding you back, so negativity prevents us from becoming divinely inspired to take action in a way that's going to benefit us in the best case or best possible way, or in with our lined up with our best interest. And so when we are lined up and we get inspired and we take that leap and we move forward and find ourselves maybe further ahead, there's that tendency we have when we want to make that leap of sort of pulling back mid-leap and sort of shooting ourselves and launching ourselves and then going, ooh, wait, what did I do? I committed to this move and I'm not sure I was ready. So it's about leaping and then trusting that whatever water you land in, you're going to be able to learn what you need to learn to maneuver through that situation. And so what I feel like with all of these messages and what the energy in this past week has really been about, and this moon cycle of coming into this second quarter moon, is about leaps of faith. And so a lot of information is going to start coming to light as we come closer to the full moon. So as the light is building and we're waxing to that full moon, new revelations are coming in. And as you get that information in, it's then about, okay, do I leap now? It's about when we make those decisions to move forward. And so there's a lot of uncharted territory that we are going to start needing to cover and needing to work with and try on and try new hats and, you know, see what fits and see what feels good, and be willing when those things are not the right fit or not the right feel, that we can just sort of let them go and move on. So for this cycle, as we're moving into the accomplishments of the seeds planted at the new moon, what I would highly recommend doing is just learning more and leaning into more those practices of checking in so that you're in touch with your feelings, so that you can be really honest and see if in altercations or in situations that may be negative, are we the ones that are being put upon the negativity, or are you the scorpion with the stinger out ready to sort of, you know, get your adversary in the situation? And then can you see your adversary through the eyes of love? So when we are able to soften in our heart centers, when we're able to let go. So if you think about the body and you think about the way that we hold tension, you think about your shoulders, are your shoulders up? Is your neck tight? Is your chest a little pulled in? Are we protective? Are we crossing our arms? Body language is amazing. The arms in and of themselves are one of the most telling signs, I think, aside from people's faces, which, now we're not as covered, you can see how hard is it to tell what somebody's emotional state is when you're only seeing, this much of somebody. So now that we're coming into seeing each other's faces again and smiles and feelings and expressions, watch what people around you are doing. Are they crossing their arms? Are they pulled in? Are they protective, or are they open to conversation, dialogue, ideas, taking responsibility? That's a big one as we're coming out and as we're softening through the heart center. Can we be honest enough in any given situation to take responsibility for ourselves? And so this is huge. This is huge. If we learn to do nothing else than to manage our individual energy as human beings, and when you learn to manage your energy, you learn to manage your life, because what you are projecting out in your energy field is a direct response. It's that law of attraction. So we've talked about that. What are you broadcasting? What vibration is most dominant in your field that you're putting out there? That is going to magnetize what comes in. So if you're not managing your energy, and if you are a angry, bitter, resentful, intense person, or you're just in that place right now, maybe that's not your nature, but maybe that's where you're finding yourself because of external circumstances, because of an attempt to calibrate to the outside world that's signaling back to you more negativity. Then just starting there and starting with taking a breath and coming in, and check your posture, check your own posture, check your shoulders, check your throat. How tight does it feel? How open does it feel? Are you speaking your truth, or do you feel like you're pulling in? Are you comfortable still sort of wearing a mask out in public? And if so, is that because of health reasons, which everybody is able to make their own decisions around that? I think we're all mature adults and can respect each other. But if it's something that has become comfortable out of fear, just see what happens when you are in your own space and you try taking that mask off. What happens? Do your shoulders come up a little? Does your chest tighten a little bit? It's just sort of checking in with yourself on your own levels of fear, because fear gets directly in the way of us being able to experience love. And I really believe that when it comes to managing our energy, love is so key. Love is so key, because if you can love yourself even when your energy is all over the place, it's at least helping you to tune into the rest of what's going on. If you're having a hard time with self-love, it's going to be more difficult to be honest with how you're feeling. We're easier to say, oh yeah, everything is fine. I'm good. I don't need that. I'm good. It's like this, ninja move. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't want anybody to come in. I don't want any help. I don't want any support. I'm fine. And that pulling in and fine. And then energy fields get tight, and you can see it in some people. Sometimes you can feel it in people. Sometimes you can be in line at the grocery store and you can feel somebody from the back of the aisle who's having a bad day because their energy is just, really projecting all of their feelings with no awareness that you have your own energy field to manage. So there's a responsibility that we have. And I think that that's what I'm really feeling. It's almost like, okay, kids, we need to sit down and have a serious talk about our energy fields and our management. Because really, if you're not aware of how you're throwing yourself out there around the world, then oftentimes it's easier for us to feel like we're victims to what's coming into our life, or we're circumstantial, or we don't have any control over what we're magnetizing or what's coming in. And so just really taking the time to self-assess and be gentle with yourself and be gentle with others. And man, I'm still feeling that bear energy. It is really it's really interesting. It's that protective sort of mama bear, for me anyway, that feels like if anything comes around my cubs that's not going to serve them, I just want to do away with it. I just kind of want to swat it away, which is interesting too about otter. So otter has no natural predators, which I didn't realize. So there is this sort of facade of we're all vulnerable in ways that we're not as vulnerable as we're made to seem. And so I think part of the message of what was coming through with otter is that if otter has no natural predators, then otter really does have, when you are feeling vulnerable, you have the space and the breath to get creative, to really feel the creativity flow. And so if otter's message is about creativity and skill, what can you do when you're not feeling stressed? How much better can you learn or take in a new skill, or practice a new skill when you don't have other factors around you, when you are not being preyed upon? So we talked before about that predator-prey energy. And so if otter has no natural predators, then it has this lack of fear. What would you do if you didn't have the fear that you have? How would you live differently? How would you make your decisions differently? If you could wake up tomorrow knowing that you had no natural predators and that you were free to develop a creative skill, anything that you wanted, what would you do? And I guess that's really the feeling that just keeps pouring through, is fear. If you could let go of the fear, if you could release all that so that your energy field didn't even have that going on, what would be different for you? So I'm interested to see what happens over this next week. I do think as we come into this full moon cycle, there is going to be a lot of revelations. I think over the next few weeks, there's going to be quite a few things coming to light. And so when you learn new things, how do you manage your field, and how do you take responsibility in the situations around you? So just like the full moon and Libra card, with balancing your own desires with the desires of the people around you. So just being mindful that we're all really in this together, and we're all trying to work together to create something better. Even if it seems like people are coming at it a different way than you might. There's lots of room for doing it lots of different ways. There's no one right way to get there. So anyway, it's been a long, fun